Hi, everyone. It's really an honor to be here. And today I want to share with you some work we have been doing at Stanford, especially on an education and research institute called HumanCentered AI. So HumanCentered AI is, or we call HAI at Stanford, and it's founded back in 1 year and a half ago, March 2019, feels like a century ago. And our mission is to advance AI research, education, policy, practice to improve the human condition. So to just start with, I want to acknowledge the people behind this incredible effort. These are the faculty leaders, about 11, almost a dozen of us. I co-direct HAI with former Stanford Provost John H. Mundy, who is a philosopher and also a long-term affiliate of the field of AI, especially in language studies. And then our associate directors come from very diverse disciplines, from computer science to medicine to economics to humanities, political science, English, neuroscience, and law. And we also have one of our major centers is, under HAI is headed by Professor Eric Brynjolfsson, who's an economist. So what does HAI do and where did this come from? Well, I think I don't need to belabor this point that AI has become a major transformative force of our world. And we're going to see this impact of AI as a technology in business and in daily lives more and more. And really, if you come to think about it, it's just about 60 years, a very short amount of time. We went from Professor John McCarthy, who is a dear Stanford member, who coined the term artificial intelligence, to the historical moment of Google's AlphaGo beating Master Lisa Doe in the game of Go. So there's just a quite amazing amount of incredible progress. And one of the, of course, one of the moments in AI research that has been considered a transformative moment or inflection point is 2012, when Jeff Hinton and his students created this convolutional neural network and won the ImageNet challenge that year and cut the error rate of, by a large margin compared to previous years. So from that point on, deep learning models have just entered and changed the way AI research is done. And we have been entering the age of deep learning revolution because of the convergence of powerful compute, algorithms, and big data. And if you measure, if you look at AI being the key driver to to what people call the fourth industrial revolution, and you can measure this by all kinds of numbers, whether it's the software development or entrepreneurship or global AI market, you just see this upward trend going very strongly. And as we know, AI is no longer abstract. It's impacting human lives. And we've got a lot of positive stories to tell, right? Self-driving cars is changing transportation and empowering people who couldn't have otherwise be behind the wheels. But some of the changes and the profound adversarial changes are also real. There's a lot of public concern about labor market displacement and changes of jobs. It's very much in our collective conscious that machine learning bias is a big issue that has been amplified by powerful AI algorithms, as well as privacy issues and more. You know, my favorite scientist, Einstein, has said it has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. And this is decades ago. And imagine what he would think now. So, under this global context of recognizing our field is really driving a technology that's changing our lives, how should we consider the next chapter of AI research? And this is when at Stanford, we come up with this framework of human-centered AI. And it's really founded on three principles, intellectual pillars that can be summarized by these three quick sentences. The first intellectual pillar is that we recognize the deep human impact of this technology, and we commit to study, forecast, and guide the human societal aspect of AI. And we recognize how interdisciplinary this technology has become. The second intellectual pillar is the strong belief that AI is here to augment human capabilities, to enhance human capabilities instead of replacing. And how do we design applications that can do that? And last but not the least, we recognize how nascent this technology is. If we want it to achieve the kind of potential we hope it does, we have a long way to go in creating AI that is much more agile, flexible, can abstract and reason and create in ways that humans can do. So we want to advance AI technology that's inspired by the versatility and depth of human intelligence. And I'll just quickly describe what these areas, central founding pillars, mean. So first, you know, I really want to advocate that we reconsider AI as a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary field and invite social scientists, humanities scholars, legal scholars, ethicists, historians, artists to come participate and sometimes lead our research. At Stanford, we have examples of economists working on AI and future of work. We have collaborations between roboticists and economists and policy thinkers to think about automation, autonomous robots and societal impact. And we have political scientists working alongside data scientists and machine learning researchers to look at how AI can impact refugee policies. And of course, there are also lots of diverse work happening at Stanford towards machine learning fairness, whether it's from algorithmic point of view or even computer theory point of view or decision-making research, and as well as education. One of the new yet extremely popular course on campus now is co-taught by a computer scientist, a political scientist, and a policy scholar that is called Computers, Ethics, and Public Policy. And we also invite artists to join us and try to explore human expression in the age of AI, whether it's using AI to enhance human expression or to confront what AI's impact is to human conditions. In the second area of our intellectual pillar or principle is about augmenting human capabilities. And we firmly believe that indeed AI will impact human labor market, but the effect will be complex and how do we answer to the changing jobs. This is dear and near to my own heart, especially in the area of healthcare. We have shortages of clinicians, especially nurses and doctors. We have our clinician fatigue. We have a global pandemic that we're combating. And there is tremendous opportunity for AI, for smart sensors, for robots, for machine learning decision making to become assistive to our clinicians' work. And in this process, we enhance the human capability to care for humans, not replacing our clinicians, but making their lives better, and more importantly, helping patients to be safer and to recover with higher quality and higher speed. Last but not the least, we recognize how nascent this technology is and how exciting, and many of us probably share with this idea or this concept at this conference about the new frontier of combining brain science, neuroscience, cognitive science with machine learning. And for example, works like curiosity-based learning, human-in-the-loop learning are becoming really popular, and there is really a lot of opportunity here. So in short, HAI promotes research, education, and policy on all of these three, related to these three intellectual pillars. And I've already introduced the research effort. I've also highlighted some of our educational effort. In addition to within Stanford classroom teaching, we also face external world to educate business leaders, congressional staffers, media, journalists, and judges and lawyers, and so on. And we also believe that a multi-stakeholder approach to human-centered AI is fundamentally important. And this involves engaging with the policy world at local, state, and national, including international level. So I just want to spotlight that one of our effort in the 2019 and 2020 is a policy effort to advocate for national AI research cloud task force. And we hope that this is an effort to boost up the capabilities of America's research, public sector research and education in AI, and maintain this healthy ecosystem that America has been leading between industry, academia, and government to continue to innovate at the fastest speed, and with the kind of progress that we have seen in the past decades. Another spotlight to our work is also we care a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we have worked throughout the summer with a faculty committee to explore issues related to these areas. And we have also issued actually a statement of commitment across research, education policy, and professional development. And you're welcome to look at this on our website. So I only have 10 minutes, so I won't be able to go over everything we have been doing, but it's an exciting institute. It's a new institute at Stanford, but we already have a community of 300 plus faculty across all 7 schools at Stanford, from medicine to law, business to education, earth science to engineering, and humanities and arts and natural sciences. And we really welcome collaborators from all over the world. Thank you very much.
The big question I would have to just sort of start us off is, when people sort of talk about applied uses of ML, the canonical examples everyone goes to are health, that comes up right away. maybe, driverless cars, maybe, sort of robotic systems, obviously around geospatial. And most of the time, if I look at like an AI for Good Conference or others, education maybe makes it or maybe doesn't make it at all. And what's your sense on, if you were to sort of think about the trajectory, where education is as an applied domain for ML on the sort of maturity curve?
Thank you, Kumar and Neil, for inviting me to participate in this workshop. And I'm learning a lot. Clearly, I'm an educator, but I'm not an education research expert. And I'm just here to learn. I do find education a very exciting area for potential machine learning and AI usage. And, education is also not just confined in classroom K-12, right? From the day we're born to lifelong learning, to reskilling, to skill learning on spot. There are so many wonderful examples of potential education opportunities for ML. I have wonderful colleagues at Stanford who are doing amazing education research. Just a couple of examples to show you where I see the opportunities. My wonderful colleague Chris Peace, who is leading a lot of ML research on not only helping teachers to automate grading, but also really to automate some of the laborious part of the work in teaching to what he calls superpower teachers, and be that machine assistants that that we dream that the teachers would have, whether it's personalized quizzes or real-time feedback and all that. I also have wonderful, amazing colleague like Emma Brunskill at Stanford looking at RL methods and how we can use that to help people to skill or reskill in a loop where machines can participate. But really, the goal is to train humans and to help humans improve skill. I also have another wonderful young colleague, Nick Haber at Stanford School of Education, collaborating with developmental psychologists and clinicians looking at children's developmental learning and autism spectrum disorders, and see where how children explore, where does joint attention happen, and how do we use some of the fundamental principles of machine learning, like curiosity-based learning, to discover humans' learning capability and so on. So many opportunities. I'm excited by this. Clearly, we're early in the curve you described, but it started and it will pick up speed.
No, I guess another question I would have for you is, obviously there's a lot of interest in, trying to advance AI by starting to think about the intersection with neuroscience, whether it's kind of early cognition and what are like inspiration we can take on the bio side that we can carry back. The word learning shows up in AI all over the place. Do you think that there's like intersections between the learning science research itself and kind of the machine learning side, as in there might be things that we're learning about human learning that could carry back? Or I haven't seen as much interaction between those two fields on the core back and forth, but I'd be curious if you think that there's something there.
It has started. One major area of inspiration in recent ML technology is actually developmental psychology and developmental cognitive science, and looking at how children learn. Yeah, when we think about traditional AI algorithms solving tasks like image classification and all that, it's very supervised. And even RL, there is a goal, and you write that objective function and you try to optimize policy for that goal. But kids, when you observe them, there is many scenarios and phases of life where exploration is much more, it's a much more prominent mode of learning than exploitation. And how is curiosity driving these kind of learning? How do we interrogate the external world to update our internal representation? How do we then iteratively, create that world model and then update the self model, and all that is part of a very exciting area of machine learning. But that's just one mode. I personally actually, I'm also very excited by looking at how grown-ups learn, not just how children learn, and grown-ups possibly learn with more exploitive goals and mixed modes and interactions with each other. And all these are new frontiers for ML, but if we know more about how humans learn, it will inspire ML more.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, part of the reason I'm interested in that is I think it would lead to much deeper interactions between the two fields if both sides sort of are find that there's areas for cross-learning. I guess another question I had, and we were covering this a little bit in the pre-chat, is I think we're still early, and I think you're actually one of the leaders in this, in thinking about AI infrastructure in really sophisticated ways. So what are the, if ImageNet is one of those core advancements, what are the, access to the cloud and other things? I'd be curious if you think that, like, if one was trying to think about advancing this on the education side, what might be some of the components of core infrastructure that might be very relevant to invest in to really sort of help seed the field or accelerate the work?
Yeah, good question, Kumar. I think this question needs more thinking, needs more multi-stakeholders participation. When I think about investment in infrastructure, I actually think about all three ingredients. It's the compute, the data, and the talent, the human capital. And in my talk, I discussed very briefly about working with legislators at Stanford HAI, where we try to promote this idea of boosting up America's AI research, basic science research capacity, and create this national cloud where the public education system and institutes can access compute and data in a way that at least, if not match, but at least closer to what a handful of leading tech companies can do. That would really unlock the innovation, the education of our public sector. But another dimension is human capital and talent. I think that there needs to be way more investment in that. I personally co-founded and still chair the nonprofit organization AI for All, where we focused on education, inclusive education of young generation. And there we are, my personal goal is to take AI for All and promote it to all of United States and all 50 states. I really invite traditionally underrepresented communities or underserved, whether it's race, gender, socioeconomic class, geographical, and also just all diversity of thoughts to participate. And that also includes our teachers. We have one of our program, open learning curriculum, is actually collaborating with high school teachers. And I think teacher students from K-12 all the way to higher ed and research community, we need to invest in that and build our capacity.
We're approaching the end of our time, so just one mini question, because I have you, is if somebody's been sort of following along today, they're inspired the work that you've done and others, are there a couple of things you would recommend as an interesting way to plug into the space, learn more, get fascinated, get going?
It depends on the audience we're talking about, right? To the very young audience, I don't know if they listen to NeurIPS recordings, the K-12 one. I really invite them to the AI for All platform. We have open learning, we have summer camps, we have college pathways, and we have change maker programs. There's just a lot we want to offer, and to the AI researchers and graduate students and faculty, and I invite them to participate in Stanford's HAI, be our collaborator, be, we really hope to provide a multi-stakeholder, multi-voice platform to discuss and work on some of the hardest issues, from technology to ethics to social changes to policy, and we invite you to join us.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think this was wonderful, and we're continuously inspired by your work. And so
thank you, Kumar. Thank you, Neil. It's wonderful to be here.
Awesome. Well, Neil, let me, you're on mute, Neil.
All right. Right. I just want to actually extend my thanks as well, Fei-Fei, for actually sharing your video and coming and chatting. And I think the NeurIPS audience actually, we want to get more people involved in these areas of the educational technology space. And I encourage anyone else who's actually listening to follow along and follow up actually in the various people that actually spoke. So thank you, Fei-Fei.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Well, that brings us to the end of our workshop. I want to, thank our co-host Neil Heffernan for being our able leader throughout today. I want to thank, the team at the Learning Agency, the team at Schmidt Futures and others for really making today possible. And I want to thank all of you for and all the speakers and everyone else. A couple of just sort of things I will leave you with. One, I was incredibly impressed by all the work that's happening in the field. I think we're at the beginning of something important. And I think for folks who found anything interesting here, we're eager to help you on your path. So whether it's joining the Learning Engineering listserv, checking out all the videos that were happening today, lots of people left their contact information. We're eager to work with you and connect you. So all I will say is that, as Fei-Fei said, a big part of this is going to be the talent side and helping people who are interested in using their skills in ML towards human flourishing and human learning find a way to do that. And we're committed to that. With that, let me pass it to Neil to say any last words.
Well, thank you everyone actually for listening, and everyone have a good night. Thank you.